It's Talk Funny, a podcast by Mark Bailey and comics from all over. We ended up in Japan because we never asked directions. The Talk Funny podcast from NagoyaRadio.com and Nagoya Comedy. Now here's Mark Bailey.
It's Mark Bailey, and we're back with Mike Miller and Talk Funny. Welcome back, Mike.
Thanks. Nice to be back.
So, a lot of things going on. We've never finished our In Memorial. We're doing it chronologically, so our most recent is Richard Belzer. May he not rest in peace. He was kind of a jerk to other comics. As you mentioned off mic, he's the anti-Bob Saget. Bob Saget is here for you.
Yeah.
Richard Belzer could give an F if
I don't think
you're
there's
here
going to
or
be a Netflix special for him, right?
No. Yeah, there's Dirty Daddy will be Dirty Bastard.
Maybe they'll do a special with it.
Dirty
Just get all the
Coke
comics
Bastard.
to get up and tell stories about how he was mean to them.
Who was it?
That would be good.
One of the comics, I can't remember his name now. He was at his deathbed, and he said Richard Belzer's final words was F you MFer.
Wow.
Like, that doesn't sound like the sweet Richard we know. No, that sounds exactly like him. He said something like, no, we're praying for you. He's like, F you MFer. This guy,
do you think it was the bitterness that kept him alive for so long?
Could
he was
be,
just
yeah.
running on bitterness?
Yeah, because, I mean, look at Bob Saget. What a nice guy.
Yeah.
Died before his 70s.
Yeah, and everybody said so many nice things about him. You know, I don't think Richard Belzer will have the same. I just remember him from a book. I never really saw much of his material, but a friend of mine was interested in getting into stand-up back in the 90s, and he bought Richard Belzer's book on how to do comedy because he made a book.
I also read that, yeah.
And every second one was the Bells Babe. Like it was the most egomaniacal book that you could imagine about comedy. It was just about him. Yeah, I thought it was kind of funny. I guess he was trying to be funny, but it was just like he came across as a real egomaniac in that book.
Well, he was an old-timer. People like me, people like Paul Reiser, we watched him on The Tonight Show when we were kids. Mm. He was on The Tonight Show like mid-'70s.
Wow.
He was on there for a long time. Mm-hmm. And he never got anywhere. He never got a show. Eventually, he got the crime show after, what is in his 60s.
SVU there, yeah.
What is CSI?
CSI, yeah. Enhance.
And that's not a comedy show.
Yeah, no, not really.
Because he's not funny, so that he has to be on a show.
Well, he found his role, you know?
Yeah. He would get on, and I watched him on Tonight's Show, and he wasn't that funny. And then I did comedy. I would see him, and he would always headline. And as I mentioned, I'd go up to him and go, Mr. Belzer, it's a pleasure to meet you. He's like, who gives an F? And I'm like, I just wanted to say it to yourself. Like, what a jaded bastard. And then Logan goes, I think you're probably over-exaggerating.
Yeah.
You're exaggerating.
He can't be that nasty.
I know how to talk to him. When Mr. Belzer, wonderful work. He goes, just take it somewhere else. I got to find a hooker. That's what he said. I got to find a hooker. He's completely on coke all the time.
Oh, my God.
I don't know if you go ahead.
Yeah, I'm surprised he lived so long if he was on coke. A lot of those guys
he
got
wasn't
young.
whacked.
Yeah.
Comics hated him. Chevy Chase hated him. Bill Murray hated him.
Oh, and two of the most guys that people hate.
Do you remember Saturday Night Live? Bill Murray had a character, the Lounge Lizard.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, everybody. Oh, yeah, it's kooky. Yeah, it's fun to be kooky. Oh, you're kooky. Look at you. You're drunk and kooky. And you're kooky. You're not drunk, but you're kooky.
That was a parody?
You're not good looking. He hated
Oh.
Belzer. And he goes, I'm going to roast him on Saturday Night Live.
Wow.
Also, Andy Kaufman hated him.
Oh, really?
And Andy Kaufman, you remember Man in the Moon?
Yeah.
The movie? I recommend it. If you're a comic, it's just for the inside baseball and all the things. Tony Clifton was the alter ego.
Oh, and he was based on...
He completely ripped that off. He said, this is Richard Belzer.
Oh, wow.
It's a guy who comes in with hookers. He's not funny. He's a comic on stage. Like, hey, you think you're funnier than me? You probably am, but I got a mic and you don't. Hey, oh.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
It's just like it. If you think of Richard Belzer, if you watch his set and then you watch Tony Clifton.
Yeah,
that's him.
Interesting.
It's
so
like,
Tony Clifton was...
You can't fire me. I'm the biggest comic ever.
Yeah.
Like, but you don't have a show. That's not everything.
You know, when enough people hate you in the business, it's not really good for your career.
And there's one other guy I forgot. Let's see. Who else hated him? Oh, I don't know if you know the comic. He's a parody comic. He's a genius. His name is Richard Cheese.
Oh, yes, he does the songs, right?
He does like heavy metal songs.
Yeah.
He does Limp Bizkit songs.
In
he
a
does,
jazz kind of loungy format.
Yeah, in a cocktail lounge style. He does Madonna. He has a funny joke where he'll say, Madonna, she's not just a singer. She's a mother. She's a producer. She's a director. She's a songwriter. God, I want to F her. He said they call her Material Girl. You look at her face, and it's a lot of material
there. There's a big controversy about that recently.
But he was doing this like in the 90s.
Oh, really?
But Richard Cheese, any coincidence? His first name is Richard. That's his stage name. That was a takeoff on Richard Belzer.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he hated him.
Who liked the guy?
Probably call up his mom and go, "Yeah, it was not my favorite. Not my favorite son."
You think how many people you think would show up at his funeral? Maybe his manager?
You mean to dance?
Yeah.
But
they're gonna smash it. They're gonna crush a cup at his funeral and dance.
You know, in a job appraisal meeting, you do like 2 good points and then 1 bad point and then another good point and then 5 bad points.
Yeah.
We've done like 7 bad points. To his credit, he was good at impressions, and I remember when I was 11, and he did. I can't do it; they'll take it down on YouTube. I can't put it up here. But Belzer's Jewish. Bob Dylan is Jewish. He did one of Bob Dylan reading the Torah. It was just so funny. It was just reading the Torah, and the times there I changed it. Behelim, Kabbalak, Behelim, Beyorim, Kabbalak. It's just really funny. And then he did one with Dylan is 86, and Dylan must be over 86 by now. Must be over age 86 by now.
Yeah, he's still alive. Like he's
alive,
just a few
but
years ago, right?
He might be over.
This
always goes well. Hey Siri, how old is Bob Dylan?
Bob Dylan is 81 years old.
Oh, he's
81.
So not 86 yet.
So he's just a little younger than my parents.
So he did. Bob Dylan is an old Jew going, "Oi, you used to sell your soul, you used to walk around the street, didn't you? Didn't you? Oi, didn't you? Oi, right. Scrounging for your very last bagel. How does it feel? How does it feel? Like a rolling stone, hey, like a rolling gallstone." So he was funny, but his attitude, just audience would be, we've had meet our artists, and you go like, F you, what do you know? You're not getting your money back. He's like, I don't care. I made enough money to buy Coke. I don't care. I don't need you people.
I'm just surprised he survived so long, considering Coke. A lot of the people who did Coke, they're dying now, and they all did Coke in the 80s, and they're dying at like 60 because their hearts are giving out.
Exactly.
Right?
My delicate story, when I was program director in New York, I was never invited to all the cool parties. There was a lot of cool parties. Barbara Hershey was there.
That's probably why you're still here.
Yeah, exactly. Elizabeth Hurley, R.E.M., Ramones, they all had these parties. And my staff would not invite me because they were doing Coke. And I said, I don't want to be part of any of that.
Yeah.
If there's a sting, I don't need it. Because I also had a government job. I don't need it.
Yeah.
I don't need to be there. So they never invited me. And everybody that didn't invite me died in their 50s.
Yeah.
It's just amazing.
Yeah. It really is. You notice that a lot of the rock stars who did a lot of notorious for doing cocaine, and a lot of the comedians too, they just kick off at 60.
One more thing about Richard Cheese. I recommend you listen to his parodies. You find him on YouTube. He does one of Snoop Dogg, Gin and Juice.
Gin and Juice. Gin and
That
Juice,
song
baby.
that song sounds like it could be Sinatra, the way he does it.
Good.
It's like driving down Laredo with my homies, sipping gin and juice.
Baby.
It's way down, way down, way down. It's really good. I might listen to the Snoop Dogg version now.
Yeah. No, sometimes you do that. You hear a cover, and it's a comedy cover, and you're like, oh, that's actually kind of a good song. And then you find out it was, it's a regular song.
He did one of. He didn't say it was the Beatles, and he goes, "I'm just going to read the lyrics." Just like na 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 na. Turn. Na 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 na. Song title. Na 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 na. Song title. This goes on for 5 minutes. Who's this band? Like, I don't know. Some washed-up band. The Beatles. Hey Jude.
Oh God, isn't he from Australia, Richard Cheese, or
No,
he's American?
No. From L.A.
Oh, he's from
That's
LA.
why he's so
Okay.
jaded.
Okay. Oh, that's why.
Before we end this, I want to do a shout-out to Amazon JP, Amazon Japan. We had a mixer here, and the mixers are fine. I've got duplicates of them, but the power source doesn't last long, but I've replaced several of them. And we just, before Mike arrived, we just got it delivered 10 minutes before, so I was able to save the show. Unfortunately, we won't be sponsored by Amazon JP, but we sponsor them, I guess.
Yeah, we sponsor everybody.
We pay to be on
This is a
podcasts.
charitable organization here we're running.
It's a non-profit organization. It wasn't planned that way, but that's the way it's turned out. Mark Bailey, Mike Miller, and Talk Funny.